Well, hi and welcome back. Today is part 2 of the door window alignment and refitting. If you recall, in part 1 we did a full strip down of the entire window mechanism system. Now the reason for this, for those of you that are hoping to avoid part 1 and jump straight to part 2, is aligning the windows is almost impossible unless you find the faults as to why they're out of alignment in the first place. Now, general alignment does not ever need doing on these cars unless either something has worked loose or something has broken. Usually that'll be your window regulator broken, or maybe one of the bolts has dropped out through vibration, or something has worn out. And as we start with the reassembly, we're going to look at all those issues. Now, this is probably one of the hardest videos I've ever had to do, for two reasons. First of all, there are so many issues to deal with. Secondly, because it's a relatively complex system for the average man at home to understand, including myself. It took me a long while to figure out what the manual was saying, which then leads us on to the third reason, and that is the manual itself is not really the easiest to understand. It's more of a general sort of guide for people that have been doing these for years and years, and it just gives you a few little pointers. So we're going to start with the reassembly now. You will find that the video is broken up. I'm going to do it one part at a time, then a brief stop for the second part. This will allow me to adjust any micrometers and tape measures to get the relevant measurements for what we're going to do next, and get any bits in place that we need to put that part on. So we're going to start off with the glass guide front track, the one that went up here. If I recall, there may have been a bolt missing on this one, and we also had a second problem, which is the original one was all very rusted out. Now, this isn't a write-off by any means. What we can do to take the roughness off is just get some sandpaper, smooth it off, and then re-grease it. On the back here, you should have a nice soft felt. But I'm lucky enough to have a spare one that I found laying around. This one doesn't have anywhere near as much rust, and what rust is there is just on the surface. So I don't need to sand it. But what I am going to do, and what you need to do, seeing as you've gone to the trouble of stripping the door down, is grab yourself some regular multi-purpose grease and a paintbrush, and then we can save ourselves a lot of future maintenance issues and wear and tear issues by just putting a smear of grease all the way up the guide. This will make the window run smoother. If those of you that have got the window that's jumping as it goes up the guide, chances are it's just sticking on rust and muck that's in there, or the wheels are jamming. So we're going to give that a nice proper smear of grease to prevent any future problems and solve any problems that you may have at the moment. So that's good. Now we'll take out the bolt. If you recall again, I put the bolts in there so we don't lose them. Nut there. Okay, so we can slide this in from the top. Turn it round. We've got the nut side that goes through there. And we've got the bolt in there. Now at this point, I'm just going to do those finger tight because there may be an adjustment that's required. We'll get all the window in first and then start the process of aligning as we go. Next step is your window regulator. Now, just a reminder for those of you that don't recall the last video, the window regulator that I took out had a number of breaks on it. So we had this snap off here, which was causing this piece of plastic to come round at an angle, like so, rather than be completely in line. We also had the wheel here broken away, and then the final one is this was coming off the track. So this needs to be replaced, and luckily I happen to have a brand new one here which we're going to fit. If I can just get that off there. Okay, again a brand new part. We don't want any future wear and tear, so just up the guide track there we'll put a thin smear of grease to prevent any wear and tear. All of these are preventative maintenance things. If you want your car to last a long while, prevention is better than cure. These parts are getting very rare and very expensive now, so just simple maintenance like this can prevent long-term issues. Also run some up the wire, like so. On this end I'm going to put around the wheel. Okay, so this goes in two sections. We're going this way round. I believe I previously did a video on fitting the regulator, but seeing as we're doing this all again, I'll cover the whole lot again. 3 screws, which I put back in here so we knew where they were. So your motor's going into these 3 holes here. Just gonna line that up. And we'll tighten those up right away, 10mm, and then we don't forget them. Okay, now the regulator itself, bring that up into position. 4 screws, again I put those in the old ones so we didn't lose them. There's no particular settings or adjustments for the regulator part of it. It's just a case of lining up all the holes. And for some reason I've had this problem before where the holes are just a fraction off. It looks like someone had the problem previously here. It's all been chewed up for some reason. And again we'll tighten those up straight away. And just before we forget, we'll grab the cable. If you recall, that clipped into this hole here, like so, and then this plug goes on to the end. Okay, now we have the glass guide rear track. As before, we've got 2 nuts on the top here. And 1 bolt at the bottom. Make sure these 2 are the same length. At this point, you don't need any massive adjustment. Just make sure they're even. That looks about it. And again, as a preventative measure, I'm going to run some grease down the guide. There's normally telltale signs of where the wear is likely to occur. You'll see it scratching into the metal. Okay, now this one in. Now again, this is an adjustable part, so what we're going to do is just get these done up finger tight for now, just so they don't wobble around, and then it will allow us to pull them into place as we go and make any necessary adjustments. Right, so that's all our guides in place, ready to install the glass. So if you give me a second, I'll go and pick up the glass and then we'll move on to the next section. Now let's take a look at the glass. First things first, before reinserting your glass, make sure you give it a good clean. Make sure there's no grit or anything on there. I've just given this a very quick wash over because it's just a demonstration car and it's coming apart again soon for respray anyway. Next thing, check that this is solid, not loose at all. Same for this one. Check this wheel. Make sure it will move, it's designed to move, but make sure there's no play in there. If you have play or it's worn around the edges, then get a new one. They are available as a replacement part. Next one, make sure this rubber bung is in here. This is important for when the window goes down to stop it in the right place. Then onto this side, make sure this assembly is tight and make sure this rubber guide is on here. This is the bit that goes up and down the front track. And finally, and very importantly, if you've got a window that's wobbling side to side, you need to check these. You see that one moving there? It shouldn't do that. It should be tight like the back one. I regularly see these loose and they do cause a problem. Now there is a special tool for this, but I don't have one and I don't see the point in buying one just to loosen that up. Just get it all as centered as you can. Hold one side while turning the other to get it finger tight. Then you can use something like a circlip plier or something similar. And just get that in there and tighten that up as much as you can. Just check this one as well. Okay, those are tight. Now we're ready to slide the window in. The 2 guides, rear track and front track, will be going on this wheel and this rubber sleeve here. Now the window has to tilt quite a long way over in order to get it into the guides, and then as it goes down it will straighten up more and more. Now we're only going to go part way down now, because what I should have done is, because I've put in a new regulator, we've got to move the regulator down a bit to sit the window onto and fit it. So just give me a second. Oh, that's not a good start, is it? A brand new regulator and it's not working. Before we go on, hold on, was that just not plugged in? There we go. don't want to trap my hands in there. Let's get this wire on properly first.
Switch.
That's better. That go down? Oh, it's already down enough. So yeah, we need it about halfway down so we can get our window lined up. Grab a screw. This one. Okay, now there's my first concern. At the moment it's trying to pull the regulator over towards the glass. There's quite a big gap there that it's trying to take up. Now the problem with that is if it's pulling hard against the regulator, you can see we've got this plastic here and it's going to snap the plastic. So instead of keep on adjusting this way, I'm going to now move the front guide, the track, towards the inside of the car a little bit, so we don't have to take up all the gap and put a strain on the regulator. So to do this, we're going to need our Allen key, which I've left on the floor here, and we'll adjust this. Nope, I've got to turn inwards. I think we're taking the back one a bit as well. Remember to adjust both screws the same amount. If we need to adjust it some more afterwards, we can do that. Okay, that's going to have to do for now. Okay, a quick feel of that going up and down. Remember, we don't have any end stops at the moment, so be ready to stop it. Oh, we've got that non-moving issue again. Ah. Okay, that's not too bad. Everything seems fairly loose and manoeuvrable. So now we'll move on to the next section. Next part of the process, stabilizers, front and rear. These have pretty specific measurements, so we're going to do them one at a time, starting with the front one. If you have a micrometer or something similar, it's a perfect tool to do this. But if you've only got a tape measure, you can do it just as well, I think. Just be very careful with the measurements. So our first measurement is in this gap here. And you're looking for a gap of 5 millimeters. This here adjusts by undoing it. So if you need bigger or smaller, you just turn it to get the measurement you need. So 5 millimeters on this particular one is pretty much completely done up. with that adjustment set. Take my nut off, and that one goes in here. Like so. And you'll bring it up more or less level with the top of the door there, and with your 12mm wrench just do up the nut to hold it in place. Okay, now the rear one. For the rear one, you're going to need an adjustment of 14.5mm. So if you preset that, it's going to help you out. I think that's close enough. So we'll set that. So this one goes in here. Oh, before I put this in, I should have explained, you'll need to make sure that your special coatings on here to stop the glass being scratched are good. Make sure your rubber is there and not deteriorated and come off. That's a bit of a tight hole, but I can assure you it will go in there. Now your measurement that you're going to need to set is between the center of this door skin and the inside edge here. That's where you need to measure 14.5mm. I'm going to put the bolt in but not do it up tight at this point. So look in there, as far as I can see from the top, that's pretty much it, with it full towards the inside. So make sure it's all squared off. One final check before I do it up. That's good. And then we'll tighten it up. Once again, I'm going to check the window, just make sure everything's moving as it should. Nice and smooth. Don't go all the way up because we don't have the end stops on yet. Okay, so already we can see that window is now rock solid and we don't even have the end stops to properly lock it off. So window back down, and we'll look at the next part. Okay, the upstop. This is the next part to the assembly process. This little part has two functions. First of all, it stops the window going up too high, and secondly, it will pull it in very slightly right at the very end of the window motion going up. So to get this in, we're going up from behind and we're bolting through this hole. So we'll slide that up behind there. And because my fingers won't fit in there, I'm going to use the bar. Get this thread lined up. Okay, now this is adjustable, it can go up and down. We're going to set it at the bottom point at the moment because it's easier to adjust it up than have it too high and the glass will bash on the frame of the car. We're going to tighten that into place because we don't want the strong motor forcing it into the wrong position. And then the final part of the assembly is our delta sash. Just 3 bolts to hold this in. And just before we fit that, I just want to check the inner front stabilizer is at its lowest point, same as the back one, just to make sure it doesn't go too high and tear the corner of the delta sash. So a bit of a Chinese jigsaw, go in at an angle. What am I missing here? There we go. On the screw, if you recall, go all the way through this hole to the back ball. Just do them up finger tight first of all. Another one in this hole here. And the final one over behind here. Now I just want to feel that that's roughly in position and lined up for now. Do that up nice and tight. But only hand tight. And a quick dry run on the window. Just watch when you get to the top here, there should be 1 millimeter, which is basically the thickness of the rubber at the top. If it starts pushing through the rubber, you need to adjust the settings, but we'll come to that in a minute. Okay, so now we can adjust all the settings to bring this up into position. So that's the next job. Okay, so now for the part you've all been waiting for. And if you think you're going to skip all the previous steps and go straight to adjustment, I think you're going to be sadly mistaken. But assuming that you've been through this entire process of checking for all your faults, everything that's worn, broken, bent, whatever, then the chances are, after reassembling the way I've just shown you, 99% of this is going to be in alignment already. Now there is a couple of quick adjustments I've already spotted. The first one is this gap here. Now there should be 1 millimeter between the top of the rubber and the top of the glass. We actually happen to have a slight gap here, and that's adjusted by this stabilizer inner front. And all this is sort of an end stop. As the window comes up, it reaches a point where it can't go any further. So we're going to start by adjusting that. And this is only a fraction of a millimeter that we have to go. So I'm just going to bring that up one little tiny bit and tighten that up. There we go, window into position, and it's not split through the rubber, although the rubber is already split. Now the next part is to see how far out of alignment the window is. So what we're going to do is slowly close the door, because if the glass is too high, it's going to bash on this metal strip, and there is a small chance you could do some damage. So we're just going to gently offer it up and see how far out it is. And look at that, that's almost perfect the whole way round. Now there is a specific set of measurements that Mitsubishi have in the manual. I don't even know where to go with these, because as far as I can see, you need to be a nuclear physicist or a rocket engineer to even work out what the pictures are describing in any sort of detail. I find that just look for what you want to do, and that is line up the window. Make sure your edges are all level with the back panels, make sure it's level round the top, and make sure you've got a good seal. Now please bear in mind, when you start these adjustments, your rubbers are going to be partially worn. They're old, they're squished, they're corroded by the sun, they're cracked. So for the proper measurements, you take the rubber out as it says in the manual. This will allow us to line everything up, so then you know when you put it all back together, if it's not fitting correctly, the problem is your rubber and not your alignment. So anyway, we've checked that's all going to go in there properly. We'll slam the door closed. Everything is looking really, really good, apart from this top edge here, which is sticking out a little bit. The bottom there is pretty good. So we'll just do that top edge. Now this is a bit back to front, because you've got a fulcrum point just here with this stabilizer. So by moving the guide here and at the front, when you wind it in at the bottom, it's going to take the top out, because it's going to pivot on this inner stabilizer. So we're going to take in the bottom to bring the top in, no, take out the bottom to bring the top in. And that appears to be pretty much the only adjustment we've got to do. So we want our Allen key, and just to check I'm going the right way, I need to go out at the bottom to bring the top in. So right, so I undo the screw, and as I undo the screw, it's pushing that bar out at the bottom. I'm just going to do a few turns to start off with and see where that brings us. Oh, I've still got the rubber in, haven't I? I did say we've got to take the rubber out. For the rubber, we've got a little plastic pin in there. We'll get underneath the plastic pin, prise that out, and then the rubber just gently works its way out. Nothing difficult about that. Let's try again. So we're in better, but still out a little bit. So I'll wind that a bit further. Did I go the wrong way? Let's see what happens.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, that's brought the top back out, so I should have undone, not done up. Let's try again. Yeah, we're level all the way along. The gap is pretty much level the whole way along, and we're level with the top of the rubber there. So the adjustments you're going to find are, you know, just try and see what happens. A little bit of adjustment, see what happens, move on to the next one, see what happens. It's just a slow process. But as I said, if you've checked for any faults and confirmed that everything's back together correctly, then it's more or less in alignment anyway. It's just minor adjustments. So that now looks pretty good to me. We grab our 12mm spanner now with the adjustments all set. We'll just do up those nuts so they don't come loose again. We've got one here. And one here. And check the window goes down. Good. Check the window goes up. Into position. Check the door closes. Check the glasses alignment. Now, of course, the rubber will try to push this out a little bit. You can't do anything about that. They're old cars. There's going to be a little bit of play, but you know that that's all correct. We'll put on the weather strip, and just for the sake of this demonstration, I'm going to put on a fairly new one. There is a video online for lining these up. Actually, I should have put the window down first, shouldn't I? Live TV. Okay, try again. Okay, now that adjustment on this side's out slightly, so I'm going to take that back down. That's better. Nice. Very nice. So quickly put the rest of the door back together. We have one screw in this weather strip just here. And then on the other side, I don't know if I pointed out that there's more than one style of weather strip, both in colour and also where the padding is, and it looks like from here where the screw hole is as well. I never knew that, but that doesn't want to line up. So this strip is actually off a GTSL from America, and the car's a Japanese GTO, so I'm going to have to get a new strip for that. So we can still put in the rubber. And another quick check. That's good. Right. And finally we'll put in the weather strip around the edge of the door there. Now if you're having trouble getting this in, you need to get yourself some lubricant, something like WD-40 or something similar. You can see this rubber's all gone out of shape with age, so we're never going to get this to fit exactly perfectly. So we'll start at the bottom here. We've got that little plastic plug that was there that goes into that hole there. Now the process for this is you've got a groove in there, and that groove will fit under that lip there. So start with that lip and you'll twist the rubber and feed it in as you go. Then once you're part of the way up, you can go back to the bottom and you can pop the bottom section in. Okay, I don't think that's going to be too far out. You can see the rubber is really thick and hard here, so when we close the door it's going to push really hard against that, and it'll probably force the window out to a degree, but there's nothing we can do without buying a new very expensive rubber. But that's created a good tight seal. It's slightly pushed it out of the top, but there's nothing you can do about that unless you want to buy a nice new supple rubber. And that's it, job done. I hope that helps you all out. It's a big job, I know. Something you can do in maybe 2 hours. Well worth 2 hours investment if you're having problems with window alignment. It tells you how to service the window, make sure you don't have problems too near in the future. So for now, thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment, and after you've subscribed, click on the bell and you can get future updates for any new videos. If by the way you would like me to do a video for you, you can go onto my new forum which complements this channel, and there's a section on there for request a video. Please feel free to request a video and I'll do my best to cover it for you. For now, thanks for watching and I'll see you on the next one.